The last time Claire Sullivan saw her son, he was riding his bike in the front yard, his laughter ringing through the crisp autumn air. It was just another Saturday in Ravenswood, a quiet Pennsylvania town where neighbors knew each other and children played without fear. At 3:42 p.m., Claire stepped inside for only a moment to grab Noah a bottle of water. When she returned, the bike lay on its side near the curb. The street was silent. Noah was gone. Her heart slammed against her ribs as she called his name, first calmly, then louder, then screaming. The neighbors joined the search, combing through backyards and wooded trails. Within an hour, the police were at her doorstep. A missing child in a safe neighborhood. It didn't make sense. Kids didn't just vanish. Detective Mark Holloway, a veteran with the Ravenswood PD, arrived minutes later. He had seen missing child cases before. Some ran away, others wandered off. But this felt different. The bike lying abandoned, no signs of struggle, and a mother who swore her son wouldn't just leave. Something was wrong. As officers questioned neighbors, an elderly woman, Margaret Whitaker, hesitated before stepping forward. "I saw something," she murmured, her wrinkled hands shaking. Detective Holloway's eyes locked onto her. "What did you see?" She hesitated, glancing over her shoulder as if afraid of being overheard. "A man. He was standing across the street near the oak tree, watching Noah." A chill ran through Claire. "Who was he?" she asked, desperation in her voice. Mrs. Whitaker shook her head. "I don't know. But when Noah disappeared, so did he." The air in the neighborhood suddenly felt heavier. "Can you describe him?" Holloway pressed. "A hoodie. Dark, maybe black," she whispered. "I didn't see his face." No security cameras, no witnesses besides a frightened old woman. But one thing was clear: Noah Sullivan hadn't run away. He had been taken. And the only person who saw what happened was too scared to speak. The morning after Noah's disappearance, Detective Mark Holloway sat in the Ravenswood Police Department, reviewing every lead. The town had been turned upside down. Officers were searching local parks, knocking on doors, and combing through hours of security footage. But so far, nothing. Then a call came in. "We found something," Officer Bradley said over the radio. "Gas station on Oak Street. You're going to want to see this." Holloway wasted no time. When he arrived, the station manager pulled up the footage. The timestamp read 3:36 p.m., just minutes before Noah vanished. On the grainy screen, children played in the small park across the street. Cars moved normally through the intersection. And then, there he was. A man in a black hoodie standing near the playground. He wasn't playing. He wasn't waiting for someone. He was watching. Holloway leaned in. The man's stance was unnerving, rigid, purposeful. He wasn't just passing by, he was studying the children. The footage continued. At 3:40 p.m., the man walked out of frame, heading in the direction of the Sullivan house. 2 minutes later, Noah disappeared. Claire arrived at the station an hour later, dark circles under her eyes, hands shaking from exhaustion. When she saw the footage, her face paled. "Noah mentioned something a few days ago," she whispered. "He said someone was watching him." Holloway's stomach twisted. "You didn't think to tell us this?" "I thought Now the evidence was clear. This wasn't a random abduction. Someone had been planning this. The police put out an alert, searching for the dark SUV seen near the gas station earlier that day, but as they followed the trail, another obstacle emerged. Mrs. Whitaker, the only witness, had locked herself in her house, refusing to talk. Why? Holloway's gut told him she knew more than she was letting on, and if they didn't get answers soon, Noah might not be the only child in danger. Detective Mark Holloway had seen fear before. He had seen it in the eyes of victims, in the trembling hands of grieving families. But the fear in Margaret Whitaker's eyes was different. It was the kind of fear that came from knowing something dark. After 2 days of silence, Mrs. Whitaker finally called Holloway's phone late at night. Her voice was hushed, shaken. "It's happening again, just like before. You have to stop him." Holloway sat up straight. "Who, Mrs. Whitaker? What are you talking about?" But before she could say another word, the line went dead. The next morning, Holloway knocked on her door. No answer. When he peered through the window, he saw movement inside, the flicker of a curtain closing. She was home. She was avoiding him. "Mrs. Whitaker, I know you're in there," he called out. "If you know something about Noah, you need to tell me." "Silence." Holloway sighed and turned away, making a mental note to return later. But, as he walked back to his car, another name from the past kept ringing in his head. Daniel Pierce. 30 years ago, Daniel Pierce had vanished from Ravenswood in almost the exact same way Noah had. One moment he was playing outside, the next he was gone. No leads, no suspects, just another missing boy whose case went cold. And the last person to see Daniel alive? Margaret Whitaker. Back at the station, Holloway dug through old case files. The eerie similarities between Daniel's and Noah's cases were undeniable. But one thing stood out. Back then, police suspected someone. Martin Whitaker, Margaret's own brother. Holloway's pulse quickened. Could it be possible? Could Martin be back after all these years? But there was one problem. Martin Whitaker was declared dead 10 years ago. So if Martin wasn't the one behind Noah's disappearance, who was? Detective Mark Holloway gripped the steering wheel as he turned onto Willow Lane, a narrow, overgrown road at the edge of Ravenswood. The abandoned house at 127 Willow Lane had once belonged to the Pierce family, the last known residents of missing boy Daniel Pierce, the child who had vanished 30 years ago in an eerily similar case to Noah's. The house had been vacant for decades, left to rot, its windows shattered and the paint peeling away like dead skin. But now, something about it felt wrong. Holloway pushed open the rusted gate and stepped onto the porch, gun drawn. The wooden floorboards creaked beneath his weight. He tried the door. Unlocked. Inside, dust filled the air, swirling in the dim light filtering through the cracked windows. Old newspapers littered the floor. A tattered couch sat in the corner, covered in a thick layer of grime. The house was abandoned, but not empty. On the kitchen table sat a half-eaten sandwich, fresh. Holloway's breath caught in his throat. Someone had been here. Recently. Then he saw it. Taped to the wall near the staircase was a drawing. A child's drawing, done in crayon. It showed a boy in a black hoodie standing outside a house, watching from the trees. Next to him, written in shaky, uneven letters, were the words, "He said he'd bring me a friend." Holloway's pulse pounded, his mind raced. Was this Noah's drawing, or Daniel's? Suddenly a noise came from upstairs, a faint shuffling sound. Holloway's grip tightened on his gun as he slowly climbed the stairs, his heart hammering. He reached the top and turned the corner just as a shadow darted into a room. "Police, come out now!" Holloway barked, his finger hovering over the trigger. Silence. Then a whisper. "He's still here." Holloway's blood ran cold. Noah? Or someone else? He pushed the door open, bracing himself, but the room was empty, just an old mattress on the floor, and another drawing. This one was even more disturbing. It showed a boy trapped in a basement. and beneath it, written in red crayon, Detective Mark Holloway bolted from the abandoned house, his breath ragged. The child's drawings haunted him, messages from a terrified boy pleading for help. He radioed dispatch. I need backup at 180127 Willow Lane. Suspect may still be in the area, and get patrol units to check every abandoned property in a 5-mile radius. Noah is alive. As he sped back to the station, his phone buzzed. Officer Bradley's voice crackled through the line. We got something. Holloway's pulse spiked. The highway patrol camera picked up a black SUV matching our suspect's vehicle, heading west. We're tracking it now. Holloway's hands gripped the wheel. Send me the location. 10 minutes later, he was tearing down Route 22, lights flashing. Up ahead, he saw it, a dark SUV swerving between cars, moving fast. Suspect spotted, Holloway said into his radio. Pursuing now. The SUV accelerated, the driver realizing he was being followed. The chase was on. The vehicles raced down the highway at dangerous speeds. Holloway's sirens blared, but the driver refused to stop. He veered onto a rural road, kicking up dust and gravel. He's trying to disappear. Then, a sharp turn, a mistake. The SUV's tires skidded, losing traction. The vehicle slammed into a ditch, its front end crumpling on impact. Holloway screeched to a stop, gun drawn as he leapt from his car. Hands where I can see them. The driver, a gaunt-looking man in his mid-50s, groaned, blood trickling from a cut on his forehead. His cold, empty eyes locked onto Holloway's. You're too late, he rasped. Ignoring him, Holloway sprinted to the back of the SUV. He wrenched the door open, and there he was. Noah, tied up, his face pale, eyes wide with terror, but alive. Noah burst into sobs as Holloway untied him, pulling the boy into his arms. You're safe now, he whispered. But as officers swarmed the wreck, a chilling thought gripped Holloway. The suspect's final words echoed in his mind. You're too late. Too late for what? Noah clung to Detective Holloway as paramedics checked him over. His small frame shook violently, his face pale, eyes darting around like he was afraid someone might take him again. You're safe now, buddy, Holloway whispered. No one's going to hurt you. But Noah wouldn't let go. His fingers dug into Holloway's sleeve, his voice barely above a whisper. It wasn't working alone. Holloway's blood ran cold. Noah looked up, eyes wide with terror. He said, The others are waiting. Holloway turned sharply toward the suspect, who sat on the ground, smirking despite his injuries. His lip curled in amusement. You really think you won? The man rasped. You only caught me because I let you. Rage boiled inside Holloway. He grabbed the man by his collar. Who are you working with? The suspect laughed. They'll never stop. He always finds a way. Holloway's gut twisted. Who finds a way? The suspect leaned in, his breath rancid. His voice was barely above a whisper. Martin Whitaker. Holloway recoiled. That's impossible. Martin's been dead for 10 years. The man's smile widened. Is he? Before Holloway could press further, officers pulled him back. Get him out of here, he ordered, his pulse hammering. As the suspect was shoved into the squad car, Noah suddenly gasped. Detective, he whimpered, gripping Holloway's hand. The house, the one with the basement. There's someone else in there. Holloway froze. The child's drawing from the abandoned house, the one that showed a boy in a basement? Adrenaline surged through him. Where, Noah? Where is the house? Noah swallowed hard. I don't know, but I remember a train whistle. It was close, and the air smelled like garbage. Holloway's mind raced. A train, a landfill, the old storage units near the industrial park. He turned to his team. We're not done yet. Sirens blared as Holloway and his officers sped toward the industrial park. If Noah was right, someone else was still trapped. And if they didn't get there in time, they might not be so lucky the next time.